have to first ask my neighbor, Mayor Michael Nutter, not to send Nikki after me.
I promise I won't.
I'm being honored as a trailblazer today by a bunch of trailblazers. And I came from the class of 1982, and I've been coming back to this law school for over 30 years. And I can tell you that the group of young people in charge of BLSA are real trailblazers. And I'm proud of you, because we really didn't have this kind of cooperation with each other when I was here. Ramona's here. Ramona's my other classmate from '82. This was a totally different place back then. I hate to be negative, but I got to tell the truth. My class, the class of '82, had 250 students in it, and only 4 were African Americans. And we had some professors who weren't too nice. In fact, one professor told me that there's no such thing as an anonymous grading system here. We know how y'all write. And it was very difficult. We tried to stick together, have study groups and what have you, because that's what's really important. We did not have an African American instructor, but we fought for one, and she came and was our instructor, but she didn't speak to us on campus. And when she fell out with the school, we had a picnic over her house, and I asked her, why didn't you speak to us? And she said, I didn't want it to look like I was favoring the African Americans. I'm not mentioning any names. I'm just trying to say to you that it was a totally different place, totally different school back then. It's a great place now, and I enjoy being here on campus. When I think of my life, I think about when I was learning how to drive when I was 16. I always liked cars, and a friend of mine, he would drive real fast down little streets, and I couldn't understand how he could do that. I was always afraid I was going to hit a car. And he told me, he said, look, stay to the curve. And as long as you stay to the curve, you're not going to hit another car. You can go as fast as you want down that street. And in life, I realized that there were curves. There were ways that you can be successful and know which way to go. You had to stay to the curve. And to me, the curve was fighting for what's right, what's just. It wasn't rocket science. And I had to grapple with something that all of you are going to have to grapple with if you haven't already. And that is this. It's fine being a trailblazer, but you have to make money too. And that's going to be a dilemma for you. Not to say you would sell out or anything like that, but everything you do, you're going to have to try to consider the consequences. And I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and it's also not a nice place. The law is great. I enjoy the law, but it's for young people coming out into that system. If you don't have some sort of guidance, you may get lost. I'll give you 2 examples. That I was in situations in the law in Philadelphia where people were committing crimes. There were people in high places. I'm not mentioning any names. But back then, all the lawyers would hang out in the judge's cloakroom. They would go in there, we'd chat with the judges and what have you, and some people were cutting deals. Again, I knew about the curve. So I knew that I wasn't going to get involved in cutting no deal with no judge and go to jail and lose my license. I fought too hard for that. One day, the judge's personal called me at my office and said, "Judge wants you to represent this drug dealer." I said, "What? The judge is asking me to represent a drug dealer before him?" No, I didn't. I never responded to that call. The next day I was in court and the person told me, "Well, the judge is upset with you for not returning his call." And a couple of days later, there was a big report. The FBI had that cloakroom under surveillance. Many of the lawyers went to jail. Some of the judges went to jail. This particular judge went to jail. And what they had was a situation where a drug dealer would be on trial in front of the judge, and the judge's personal and people in the courtroom he knew would go out into the audience and say to the family of the dealer, "We can fix this. It costs you $10,000. You got to have a lawyer now to be the go-between. He gets 5 and the judge gets 5. They had all that on video. You know, FBI, they interviewed a lot of people. They never called me. You know, because I wouldn't do anything like that. But I do remember I was before this judge, and the same judge, and I had a guy I was representing. He and a bunch of his friends broke a window into a jewelry store one night and helped themselves. This guy, he was charged, and he had a job, and he had already missed several days of work by coming to court, and he wanted to plead guilty to a misdemeanor, simple theft. So I said, "Look, there's some ways we might could win. You know, some questions of identity and what have you." He said, "No, I want to plead guilty because if I accept a trial, then I'm gonna have to miss more time from work." So I said, "Okay, we'll work out a plea agreement." The judge comes around and meets me near the elevator and said, it was like in December. So, "I'm gonna give them to you for Christmas," he says. I said, "No, you're not. I'm pleading guilty." How do you think that looked on the FBI tape? And here's a lawyer here insisting on pleading his client guilty when he could have cut a deal. That was that's the kind of stuff that, believe me or not, is going on in Philadelphia. I was walking down a street next to City Hall one day, and a high public official came up to me and said, "Hey, Leon, did you want a bond deal?" I said, "Yeah." I said, but I don't want to owe a politician anything." He said, "I'm not trying to control you. Give me a call." So I called him. He put me on a bond with a large firm, and these bonds are very lucrative. And I came to a couple of sessions, and I got a $10,000 check in the mail. Okay, I called the politician up. I wrote him a letter, said, "Thank you. Thanks for the city doing business with my firm." And next thing I know, I got a campaign contribution envelope in the mail, which I threw in the trash. Last bond deal I got. And FBI was in on that. I mean, a lot of people went to jail then. So, you know, I'm not trying to discourage you. There's a lot of pitfalls out there. And I guess the question for you is how important money is, and a lot of lawyers are losing their licenses because they can't keep their hands off of other people's money, and that's going to be a dilemma for you. Other than that, I love the law. When I was in my last year of law school, everyone was making out resumes. I never made a resume because I didn't want to work for anybody. And I like doing things the way I like to do them. I don't like being put in a situation where I have to act a certain way, I have to talk a certain way, I have to look a certain way. I love coming to work in the morning, open up my office, and I'm the boss there, And don't believe the hype. All these lawyers from all these big firms, they can't compete with me. They can't. Because, you get so big until you become unmanageable. I handle everything in my firm. Everything from interviewing the client, to investigating the case, to arguing the case, to filing the appeal, everything. And I can get to the scene quicker than they can, I can, most of the time, they may have 5, 6 people looking at the file. I know the whole file from beginning to the end. So, sometimes the hype is out there that the brother's over there smiling because he knows what I'm talking about. He has a firm here in Wilmington. There's a lot of hype that people are going to try to make you believe that because they're from this big firm that somehow you have to roll over for them. No, it doesn't work that way. But other than law, I like public policy. I ran for district attorney, and I was probably the first DA to run on the platform of keeping people in school, because 85% of the people in jail drop out of high school. And I used to say there's an invisible pathway that leads from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. And that's still true. If you don't give a child a quality education, nowhere else for them to go but jail. And we need to do something about that. As lawyers, as current African Americans concerned, we need to do something. We need to do something about the crime in our community, about the murder rate. We need to do something, most of all, about the apathy in our community. And I had a plan that I put forth to most of the politicians, even to President Obama, of how we can solve the crime in our community through tax credits. I looked at the state of Pennsylvania, and I found out there were 200 tax credit programs, but not one went to community residents for getting involved in the community, or going up to the schools, or forming town watches. And I said, why not? If you want, the biggest problem we have is apathy, that people just will not get involved. If you want to erase apathy, you got to do it with individuals the same way you do it with corporations. They know how to make corporations behave through the taxing power, and they need to do the same thing with individuals. So I'm concerned with not only law, I am concerned with making changes in our community, and I hope everyone here will join me and fight to make it a better place for our children to walk the streets, for our neighbors to go to work, not have to worry about coming home and somebody's breaking into houses and what have you. Again, I'm proud to be a graduate of Widener University. Thank you.